concentration of the substance in the urine multiplied by the urine flow volume. And then we calculated the renal absorption rate, which is filtration load minus excretion rate. And we talked about the secretion rate, which is equal to the excretion rate minus the filtration load. We also talked about what is tubular maximum, which is the amount of the substance, maximum amount of the substance which is being excreted or secreted out per minute from the renal tubules. We talked about proximal convoluted tubule reabsorption after having a brief histological overview of it. And we said that 100% of this glucose and proteins and amino acids are getting reabsorbed at the initial part of the first half of the PCT, and other organic compounds are also being reabsorbed. Then in the second half, along with that, the sodium is getting reabsorbed by an co-transporter or a symporter mechanism. Then the further sodium is getting 65% of the sodium is getting reabsorbed in the PCT as a whole. In the second half, it is getting reabsorbed again by a symporter or a co-transporter with the help of sodium chloride, with a sodium chloride link. We also talked about the mechanism of reabsorption of glucose in the first part of the PCT, and where we explained about the real or the ideal threshold, renal threshold for the glucose in venous component is 180%, while that in the arterial it is 200%. That is the real one. But ideally, what should have been is around 300 in the female and 375 in the milligram per minute is in the male. So difference between the two is very well reflected in the GTT curve, and that bend is being termed as tubular maximum or a renal splay. Remember we talked about, and this renal splay is because of the different reabsorption capacity of the glucose in the first part of the renal tubules. That's the first important thing. And the functioning activity of different renal tubules is not exactly the same. So each renal tubule do not have the same renal threshold. Some may be having lesser, some may be having a bit more, some may be having the ideal renal threshold for the glucose. So that difference actually creates a difference in the overall renal threshold for the kidney in a nephron as a whole kidney, two sides. So that is termed as the splay. Is this much clear? Was this part clear? Yes or no? This was still what we did in the previous lecture. That's the first part. Okay, Rutam. Good, good. So I will be continuing with the tubular function, the second half of the tubular function, where we will be explaining more about the PCT, and then we will be continuing with the reabsorption and other tubular parts. Okay. So the learning objectives remain the same, and we will be also explaining a bit of applied aspect related to the tubular abnormalities which lead to difference in the reabsorption of various components. Okay. So renal handling, this we know, the absorption, reabsorption of sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and various ions at the proximal tubule. But what we don't know is that certain components are being also secreted at the proximal tubule, some by active mechanism and some by passive mechanism. The secretion is of urate, the para-aminohippuric acid that we just termed as PA, creatinine, sulfonamides, H+ ion, urates, H+ ion to a very limited extent, but he is getting excreted out. And passively is that of the ammonia. Okay. So certain components which are non-reabsorbable, you remember inulin, creatinine, sucrose, and mannitols. These components are not being reabsorbed if they are being filtered at the PCT. So various organic compounds are also being secreted. We just talked about one, the uric acid, certain exogenous drugs, para-immunohippuric acid, these are basically being secreted from the peritubular capillary into the tubular cells and finally via the PCT flow. Now, since uric acid is being secreted and as well as reabsorbed to a certain extent in the PCT, whenever a person is having gout, so one of the mechanism is getting arrested. Specifically, the secretion part is getting arrested. So what we need to do, we need to increase the mechanism of secretion and less amount of the reabsorption has to be done, so that more and more uric acid gets removed out and the signs and the symptoms of the gout will be reduced. Now, what is the gout? It's nothing but increase in the plasma concentration of the uric acid. So what do you want? What is happening? Normally, there is more of secretion, less of reabsorption at the PCT and other parts of the tubules. Now, we want it to be done reverse. We want less of reabsorption, more of secretion. So we need to give the treatment strategy by stopping one of the mechanisms. The other organic anions which are being secreted from the PCT, they are by salts, oxalates, urates. Okay. They have almost a similar mechanism, but with a very low specificity. Like para-immunohippuric acid, it will enter the proximal convoluted tubule via the basolateral membrane in exchange of alpha-ketoglutarate. Now, this alpha-ketoglutarate in biochemistry, you might be reading or you might have read that this is one of the end product of the glutamate metabolism. So it gets reabsorbed as an exchange mechanism or in an antiport mechanism at the basolateral side. So you can see here in the image, the PA is coming from the peritubular capillary into the interstitium and then into the PCT cells. Okay, then it is getting excreted out by a non-specific carrier. Now, alpha-ketoglutarate is being secreted by the glutamate metabolism. One of the end product of it is in the from the glutamate mechanism or metabolism of it. Even it is getting reabsorbed via a similar path in presence of a symporter, that is sodium alpha ketoglutarate symporter, which allows the sodium to re-enter along with alpha Kg. So this is the mechanism of secretion of PA. Now, during the World War II, penicillin was the antibiotic, the drug of choice to decrease the bacterial infection. Due to the increased use of penicillin, there was a scarcity. अब उस scarcity को कम करने के लिए what they found that if they have inserted penicillin along with hippuric acid, which is basically nothing but one of the major component of the para-immunohippuric acid. Once they get bound, the penicillin gets bound, it remains or stays within the blood for a very longer duration of time. It doesn't get secreted out or it doesn't get excreted out very fast. So what will happen? It will prolong the action of the penicillin and it will, we need to use a lesser dose of penicillin to have a greater effect. So in this way, during the World War II, even with less amount of the penicillin, they could achieve the therapeutic effects. So this was one of the very important aspects. That was only when we knew that if we bind it with the hippuric acid, it takes a longer time to break down into para-immunohippuric acid and then it gets secreted. And this allows, hippuric acid allows the compound to stay within, a penicillin to stay within the blood for a longer duration of time. So even if low amount of the drug is given, it will have a huge effect. Now there is a disease or a syndrome which is termed as Fanconi syndrome, and it is because of the generalized defect in the PCT. Now this can be because of the mutation in the carriers, in the transporter proteins. It can be inherited autosomal or inherited X-linked. Okay. Because of, it can be also acquired by diseases, people who are suffering from multiple myeloma, amyloidosis, heavy metal toxicity. Even those patients who are on long-term chemotherapeutic drugs, they do have generalized defect in the PCT reabsorption. So what will happen? There will be glucose urea, although plasma glucose level is not high, it is normal. They will not have hyperglycemia, but they will have glucose in the urine with a normal blood sugar level. So they will develop hypoproteinemia because it is getting excreted, hypouricemia, hypokalemia, amino acid urea, low molecular weight proteins will be excreted out, tubular acidosis will be there more. They might have rickets and osteomalacia because less amount of the calcium is being reabsorbed from the tubular system. So there might be salt wasting, and they can also suffer from polyuria. So these are some of the PCT which is termed as the Fanconi disease. Last but not the least, the chloride reabsorption from the PCT. As I said, the chloride gets reabsorbed along with a syn-porter with that of the sodium. But there is also specialized channel in the PCT, the lower part of the PCT, where it is linked with the calcium reabsorption. So calcium and chloride, they both get reabsorbed together. The exact mechanism, the molecular mechanism of this, the functioning of this particular channel is bit still not known. But one thing is being identified, that if there is a defect in this particular channel, it will cause a disease which is termed as a Dent's disease. Now, what will happen? There will be abnormality in the reabsorption of the calcium and chloride and secretion of the calcium. So what is going to happen? Calcium will be more in the urine. Hypercalciuria will happen, which will lead to the accumulation of the calcium within the tubular system, leading to kidney stone formation. The low molecular proteins can be excreted out. They will have calcium nephrolithiasis. That means formation of crystals of due to the presence of high amount of the calcium. There may be nephrocalcinosis, that means stone formation because of the calcium deposition in the nephrons. This is mostly seen in the males, although in the females, this type disease occurrence is normally asymptomatic. They do not have this much amount of disorders being reflected. Why is it so? It is a bit difficult to answer right now. So till now, is this clear? We talked, till now we have stopped up to the understanding of function of PCT. Any question? Yahan tak? Is there any question? No. Okay, fine. So we will continue with the functions at loop of Henle. Now, whatever the fluid from the PCT, it enters into the loop of Henle. That is the descending limb of loop of Henle. It is isotonic with that of the plasma. But the fluid which leaves the loop of Henle enters into the distal convoluted tubule, it is hypotonic. Normally, it is around 100 milliosmoles per kg of water. But plasma hypotonic in context to that of the plasma fluid or PCT fluid. कितना normally हमने बोला ये isotonic है, मतलब 290 milliosmoles के करीब होता है, right? So here there will be hypotonicity. Now hypotonicity can be either there is more amount of the solute reabsorption in the loop of Henle, or more amount of the water being secreted into the loop of Henle. या तो ये इन दोनों में से कोई एक कारण हो सकता है. But the most important reason for it is because of increased amount of solute reabsorption, specifically ascending limb of loop of Henle, without intake of water. Water का reabsorption नहीं होता, केवल और केवल solutes का reabsorption होता है. तो क्या होगा? Osmolarity decrease हो जाएगी, तो it will be hypotonic. So this is a very important aspect which plays an important role in countercurrent mechanism. The loop of Henle has three parts. We have talked about it: descending, thin descending, thin ascending, and thick ascending. Descending thin loop of Henle is permeable to water. Thin ascending is also permeable, but to a very lesser extent, while thick ascending is absolutely impermeable to water. It does not allow the water to pass through, right? Even if there is an osmotic gradient, still it does not allow the passage of the water. Now, what exactly is being transported in the loop of Henle? Approximately 25% of sodium chloride, sodium and chloride ion, potassium ion, 30% of calcium, 65% of the magnesium. Okay, the end part of the terminal end of the descending loop of the Henle will have an hypertonic component, but as it goes up to the end of the thick limb of loop of Henle, it will be hypotonic. Okay. Now let's talk what all is happening in the loop of Henle. The first very important channel is 1 sodium, 1 potassium, 2 chloride channel. Okay. This again is a secondary transport channel, or what we say secondary active transport channel, because of the presence of sodium potassium ATPase at the basolateral side of this loop of Henle. They are mostly present in the ascending limb of loop of Henle. So it will allow the entry of sodium, entry of potassium, along with that entry of the chloride. So there will be no electric charge gradient. There may be osmotic gradient, but there will be no electric charge gradient. Now, sodium will be going out via the basolateral membrane by sodium potassium ATPase pump. That is a primary active pump. What about the potassium? Potassium इससे भी अंदर आ रहा है और प्राइमरी पंप से भी अंदर आ रहा है. तो अंदर hyper concentration of the K plus sign ho jayega, which we don't want, right? So it has to leak out. It will be leaking out. Either it will be leaking into the basolateral layer or it will be secreted out into the tubular fluid. The receptor or what we say the transporting channel, here it is ROMK, ROMAC. That is a renal outer medullary potassium channel. That is the name of this particular channel. So this channel will allow the exit of potassium ion from the tubular cell either into the tubular fluid or into the interstitial compartment. Other than that, they have a specialized type of the channel for the chloride also to move. Ye chloride ko bhi to bahar jana chahiye. That is termed as the baryton receptor. Now this baryton receptor, it is termed as CICKB, chloride channel. Okay, this is a specific channel. So it works by a passive transport mechanism because inside the chloride concentration is very, very high. It has to move out. So it will be moving out by a passive diffusion mechanism. Other than this, there is also one more channel which is termed as potassium chloride channel. It is also a passive channel which works by movement of potassium out of the which is present at the basolateral layer, allows the potassium as well as the chloride to move from inside the cell of the tubule into the interstitial compartment. Finally, it will go into the peritubular capillary or vasa. So these are the 3 or 4 basic receptors which are present in the thick part of the ascending limb of loop of Henle, by which the transport mechanism occurs. So you can see here how actually it works. The thick ascending limb of loop of Henle has very few cilia, not many as that of the PCT. It has very few. Whenever the tubular fluid will flow, this cilia will bend, and this bending of the cilia will open up the channel, and this cilia bend, basically it will activate the entry of the calcium, and this calcium increased will activate the ROMAC receptor, which is the receptor which will allow the potassium to move from inside the cell to outside. And passively, the sodium will enter, the calcium will enter, and thus it will be going out to the other side of the basolateral side. So it will cause the reabsorption of sodium, reabsorption of calcium, and exit of potassium ion. Now there is a syndrome which is termed as a Bartter syndrome, and this syndrome is an inherited disease due to the defect in the receptors at the thick ascending loop. If the defect is only for the Bartter gene, that is the functioning of the chloride channel, then it will specifically affect the uptake, release of the chloride ion. Otherwise, overall, it will have hypokalemia, increased pH by alkalosis, and normal to low blood pressure. Now, if the mutation is occurring at sodium potassium chloride cotransporter along with the ROMAC potassium channel, it will lead to hyponatremia, it will lead to hypovolemia, it will also activate the RAS system, renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, increasing the aldosterone activity, causing hyperkalemia, and finally the alkalosis. Another very important thing what has been found, if the patient is having this type of disease, it will also have deafness. Now deafness is because this ROMAC type of channels are also present in the stria vascularis part of the inner part of the ear. When we talk about the sensory system, when we explain the inner ear, at the time we will talk that in scala media there is high concentration of potassium ion, and that is because of the presence of ROMAC channel, which will allow the stria vasculi to secrete out more and more of potassium into the scala media. Now if this defect, ROMAC channel is not working at all because of the genetic defect, it will not only affect at the ascending limb of loop of Henle, but also in the stria vascularis, so causing its defect leading to deafness. Till this half, the loop diuretic. What is a diuretic? It is basically a drug which will increase the flow of the urine. Now, loop diuretic is something which will affect the loop of Henle. One of the drug is furosemide. Now, this drug will inhibit the sodium potassium chloride cotransport, and it will cause natriuresis, calciuresis, that is excretion of calcium, excretion of chloride, excretion of sodium into the urine, and thus it will increase the osmolarity of the tubular fluid, causing the increased water excretion. Now, whenever we give a furosemide to any pressure, the loop diuretics are being used, or to control the excess amount of the blood volume, specifically in the congestive cardiac failure patient, where they have increased amount of the blood volume causing peripheral edema. We need to excrete this excess volume. At that time also we do use furosemide. But in this patient, other than when you give it continuously for a chronic duration of a time, the defect what they have is potassium concentration in the blood decreases. So they have hypocalcemia, which is very, very dangerous thing. So we need to supplement these patients, those who are taking a chronic therapy of this particular iron. What is VM here? Where did I write this VM? VM मैंने कहाँ लिखा? मैंने तो कहीं लिखा नहीं VM बेटा. Let me check. VM तो बेटा कहीं नहीं लिखा. Okay, okay. It will increase the flow, stimulating the sodium entry, which will reduce the VM. VM means the volume which is allowing the movement of the ions into the right. That is what VM, the cilia flow. That is what exactly it is talking about. Because यहाँ पे water का reabsorption नहीं होता है ना, तो इसीलिए. Fine. Any other question? Yeah, did you understand that? It's talking about the flow, because everything is controlled by the flow. जितना ज्यादा flow होगा उतना ज्यादा cilia का movement होगा, मगर अगर बहुत ज्यादा, it will not get time to come back, क्योंकि ये जो रोमैक्स वाला जो रिसेप्टर चैनल है वो ओपन होता है जब movement of the cilia होता है. That gets triggered, the opening of it gets triggered by the cilia movement. अगर कंटिन्यूसली यूरिन फ्लो बहुत ज्यादा हो जाएगा तो वो तो इधर ही रहेगा ना, वो फ्लिप फ्लैप मूवमेंट नहीं कर पाएगा. सो इट वंस it moves, the romax starts opening, sodium enters, calcium enters, okay, and the flow as such is going to get decreased so that it comes back to its original position. Then again the flow will increase and it will move. So it's basically an on and off process. It's not continuous on process. ये ऐसा नहीं है नल का ऑन कर दिया, ऐसा नहीं है. जब जरूरत है तब वो ऑन हो जाएगा, जब जरूरत नहीं है, जब वो फ्लो वॉल्यूम का जो कंपोनेंट वैल्यू जो है वो डिक्रीज हो जाता है तो वो स्टॉप कर देता है. राइट. Okay, great. So now I will be starting about the function of the DCT, distal convoluted tubule. Again, the upper part, the thick part or upper part of the distal convoluted tubule, again it has similar structure receptor as that of the ascending limb of loop of Henle. So it has this 1 sodium, 1 potassium, 2 chloride channel, which will, and this channel will work only and only at the, because of the presence of, at the basolateral side, 3 sodium, 2 potassium ATPase, that is a pump, sodium potassium pump जिसको हम बोलते हैं, right? And it has Romax channel as well, which will remove the excess amount of the potassium out of the cell, but it does not have any Romax channel at the basolateral surface. It is mostly the Romax channel present at the lumen. So potassium is getting secreted, it is getting reabsorbed, and it is also getting secreted in the DCT. While sodium and chloride are getting reabsorbed, the sodium moves by sodium potassium pump into the circulation, while chloride moves via the chloride channel by the ionic gradient. other than this one sodium, one potassium, and two chloride. Keep this thing in mind. The ascending limb of loop of Henle does not allow the passage of water at any point. Even the initial part of the DCT also does not allow the entry of the water by passive diffusion. Okay. Now, other than the initial channel, it is also having one of the symporter, which is termed as sodium chloride symporter, yeah, sodium chloride transporter. Okay, so again the same thing, sodium will enter, chloride will enter depending upon the sodium potassium pump activity. Potassium will be going out to a great extent to maintain by the leaky channels, and chloride will be moving by the passive chloride channel opener. So this is one more additional receptor which is present, or a channel which is present in the DCT. So what all is getting reabsorbed in the DCT? Sodium, calcium, magnesium, ureates, chlorides, bicarbonates, and water. Okay. What is not getting reabsorbed is urea. What is getting secreted? Hydrogen ion, potassium, okay, and ammonia. So this is what is the concern. We have been talking about it every time I have been showing this diagram. Maximum amount of reabsorption of the ions of the solute is happening in DCT by 67%, 25% in the thin ascending limb, 5% in the DCT, 3% in the collecting duct, and finally rest what remains 1% is being excreted out via the urine. Now we'll talk together DCT and collecting duct. As I said, the initial part of the DCT, it also has one more channel which is termed as sodium chloride co-transporter. Now this co-transporter is a site of action of a diuretic which is termed as thiazide. And this part is also impermeable to water, like that of the thick part of the ascending limb. Now this actually leads to cortical, this is termed as the cortical diluting segment. Why? Because there is lots and lots of reabsorption of sodium and chloride without reabsorption of the water. So what is happening? The fluid in the tubule, which is occurring at the initial thick ascending limb of loop of Henle, early DCT, that is diluted. So it is termed as cortical diluting segment. अगर इधर सोडियम का reabsorption कम हो रहा है या सोडियम का कंसंट्रेशन बढ़ जाएगा, यू रिमेंबर व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन? मैक्यूला डेंसा ट्रिगर हो जाता है. यू रिमेंबर दैट? जेजी एपेरेटस की हमने बात की थी. इट विल कॉज द सिक्रेशन स्टिमुलेशन ऑफ रेनिन, राइट? सो वो कब होगा? जब ज्यादा हमारे पास रीनल परफ्यूजन फ्लो आ जाएगा, ब्लड प्रेशर ज्यादा हो जाएगा. सो इट विल हेल्प इन कंट्रोलिंग द ब्लड प्रेशर. Now, we know that there are two major types of the cells which are present in the late DCT and the cortical part of the collecting duct. One is the principal cell and other is the intercalated cell. ये हमने पहले भी पढ़ा है. Principal cells, they actively absorb sodium and they secrete out potassium ion. And this is by increase in the aldosterone. मतलब aldosterone का action जो है वो principal cell पर होता है. And this will cause more and more reabsorption of sodium and more secretion of the potassium. The another hormone which acts here is antidiuretic hormone, which is also termed as a vasopressin. It is this hormone, we know that it is being secreted, synthesized by the hypothalamus, secreted by the posterior pituitary. Okay. Now, what does it do? It will cause the reabsorption of the water, specifically water. Now, intercalated cells, they are mainly important. They also act by the action of the aldosterone, but their action is to secrete out H+. We'll talk about it. See here, the potassium ion excretion is happening and sodium reabsorption is here, right? So this will be because of the action of the aldosterone. You remember हमने बोला था RAS system में कि aldosterone will cause more and more reabsorption of the sodium. No, this is why, because it acts on the distal convoluted tubule where there will be maximum reabsorption, more and more reabsorption. About 2% of the overall sodium reabsorption is being affected by aldosterone. अगर aldosterone होता है तो जितना reabsorb होता है उससे कहीं ज्यादा 2% और ज्यादा reabsorption हो जाता है. So it will cause more and more reabsorption of the sodium. Now potassium का अगर नॉर्मल या इंक्रीज्ड अपटेक ऑफ पोटेशियम हम लेते हैं तो क्या होता है? पीसीटी में कुछ रीअब्सॉर्ब होता है, एसेंडिंग थिक लिम्ब में कुछ एब्जॉर्ब हो जाता है, फिर 10 to 50% पोटेशियम यहाँ पर सिक्रीट आउट होता है और कलेक्टिंग डक्ट में भी सिक्रीट आउट होता है। मगर अगर हम नॉर्म डिप्लीशन है, मतलब हमारे पास पोटेशियम की कंसेंट्रेशन ब्लड में कम है, पीसीटी में नॉर्मल रीअब्जॉर्प्शन हो रहा है, टीएएल में नॉर्मल रीअब्जॉर्प्शन हो रहा है, यहाँ पर डीसीटी में यहाँ पर इंस्टेड ऑफ सिक्रीशन हियर देयर विल बी रीअब्जॉर्प्शन। इवन कलेक्टिंग डक्ट में सिक्रीशन नहीं होगा, रीअब्जॉर्प्शन होगा। तो एक्सक्रीट कितना होगा? only 1%. So this is how these channels will actually regulate the electrolyte balance within the blood. अगर कोई कंपोनेंट कम है तो उसका सिक्रीशन नहीं करेगा, रीअब्जॉर्प्शन करेगा, और वो अगर नॉर्मल है या ज्यादा है तो जितना ज्यादा है उतना ज्यादा वो सिक्रीट आउट करेगा, ताकि हमारे ब्लड पे उसका लोड नहीं मिले। ओके, नाउ एल्डोस्टेरोन की हमने अभी बात की थी, हम थोड़ा और मैकेनिज्म को समझने की कोशिश करेंगे। Other than acting on the reabsorption of the sodium, how does it do so? What happens whenever the aldosterone is being secreted out from the adrenal cortex? It will act on the principal cells. चूंकि ये स्टेरॉइड्स है तो डेफिनेटली ये सेल मेम्ब्रेन को पास करके न्यूक्लियस पर एक्ट करेगा। वहां पे ये एसजीके के अलावा और अदर टाइप के प्रोटीन्स बनाता है, जैसे द प्रोटीन्स रिक्वायर्ड फॉर सिंथेसिस ऑफ सोडियम पोटेशियम एटीपी पंप। ओके, अभी क्या हो रहा है कि ये इसके अलावा एक स्पेसिफिक टाइप का चैनल बनाता है जिसका नाम है ई सोडियम सी चैनल। ई सोडियम सी ये प्रोटीन बनाता है, एंड दैट प्रोटीन स्पेसिफिकली हैज अ फंक्शन टू कॉज रीअब्जॉर्प्शन ऑफ सोडियम फ्रॉम द ट्यूब्यूल इनटू द प्रिंसिपल सेल। नाउ ये प्रिंसिपल सेल एंड पार्ट ऑफ डिस्टल कोनोलेटर ट्यूब्यूल में भी प्रेजेंट है और इनिशियल पार्ट ऑफ द कलेक्टिंग डक्ट में भी प्रेजेंट होता है। अब सोडियम की कंसंट्रेशन अगर सेल में ज्यादा हो जाएगी तो उसको बाहर भी निकालना है, तो कैसे होगा? सोडियम पोटेशियम, right? So this is how the molecular level the aldosterone actually acts to cause increase in the sodium ion reabsorption. That means whenever the aldosterone will be secreted out, it will cause the opening up or formation of ENAC channel, which will cause more and more reabsorption of the sodium ion. Fine. Now there are certain drugs which are termed as potassium sparing diuretics. Now इसमें दो टाइप के हम डायरेटिक्स की बात बोल रहे हैं, एमिलोराइड एंड स्पाइरोलैक्टोन। अभी स्पाइरोलैक्टोन क्या करता है? वो सोडियम पोटेशियम पंप जो बेसोलेटरल मेम्ब्रेन पर होता है उसको इनहिबिट करता है। अगर ये पंप इनहिबिट हो जाएगा, दिस पंप, इफ दिस पंप गेट्स इनहिबिटेड, विल सोडियम एंटर? इनिशियली होगा मगर बाद में नहीं होगा, क्योंकि अंदर सेल का जो ऑस्मोलैरिटी है वो ज्यादा हो जाएगा कंपेयर टू आउटसाइड फॉर दैट ऑफ द sodium ion. So there will be stoppage of reabsorption of the sodium. अब अमीलोराइड क्या करता है? ये ई सोडियम चैनल को डायरेक्टली इनहिबिट कर देता है। अब उस चैनल को इनहिबिट किया तो क्या हो जाएगा? रीअब्जॉर्प्शन ऑफ सोडियम विल बी स्टॉप्ड फ्रॉम द कलेक्टिंग डक्ट. That means it will antagonize the action of the aldosterone. This drug is basically being used in patients who are having hyperaldosteronemia, the hyper secretion of the aldosterone जब किसी पेशेंट में होता है तो we can use those two drugs. This is as a treatment therapy. यहाँ तक समझ आया बेटा? Is this okay? Because whatever we are reading, it should be linked to what you will be doing in future life. समझ आया? ओके, एनी क्वेश्चन टिल नाउ? एक चीज दिमाग में बिठा के रखनी है, एसेंडिंग लिम्ब ऑफ लूप ऑफ हेनले में और इनिशियल पार्ट ऑफ डीसीटी में वाटर का रीएब्जॉर्प्शन नहीं होता है। बाकी सब जगह होता है, कहीं ज्यादा होता है कहीं कम होता है, मगर इस पार्ट में बिल्कुल भी नहीं होता है। सो दैट शुड बी वेरी वेरी क्लियर। ओके, सो वी विल मूव अहेड. We talked about it. How this H plus ion, this is very interesting. हमने बोला कि intercalated cells जो present होती है end part of the DCT and initial part of the collecting tubules में, वो secrete करते हैं H plus ion. Now this H plus ion is being secreted by a primary active pump. This is sodium potassium ATPase. यहाँ पर रीअब्जॉर्प्शन होता है सोडियम का और हाइड्रोजन आयन का सिक्रीशन आता है. ये पंप आपने और कहाँ पढ़ा है? Have you read about this pump earlier? This is a primary active pump. It's present somewhere else also in the body. Where have you read it? Anyone? Sodium potassium ATPase. क्या हुआ भाई, सो रहे हो? Are you people sleeping so early in the morning? नहीं, GIT तो ये एक लंबा फेंका, मुझे एग्जैक्ट लोकेशन बताओ. GIT is a big term. GIT तो पूरी किताब लिखी जाती है. Tell me one specific area where you are able to find this particular pump. Pancreas. Be more specific. अगर आप स्टमक बोल रहे हैं तो स्टमक का कौन सा सेल और किस लिए यूज होता है ये? HCl secretion. Very good, very good, very good. Parietal cell to control the level of acid in the stomach. Very good. ठीक है? Good, good. So sodium potassium ATPase pump keeps on continuously working in the stomach, the parietal cell, for the synthesis of the hydrochloric acid. But here in the intercalated cell of the nephron, it is stimulated only by aldosterone. अगर aldosterone secrete होता है by activation of the RAS system, then it will be activated in the intercalated cell and it will cause reabsorption of potassium ion and it will cause secretion of the H plus ion, जिसके कारण से हमारा जो यूरिन है वो एसिडिक रहता है. So you can see here acidification. What is happening? Water, carbon dioxide combining together, H2CO3, it gets bifurcated into H plus ion and bicarbonate ion, right? Bicarbonate ion exchanges with that of the chloride ion and this chloride is being transported passively into the tubule. And the कौन सा enzyme यहाँ पे use होता है which break down H2CO3 into H plus and bicarbonate ion? ये कब इधर कौन सा enzyme use होता है? Which enzyme works here? Carbonic anhydrase. Very good, very good. So carbonic anhydrase will cause this reaction to happen. H plus ion secrete होता है. ये H plus ion जो है excrete out होता है into the tubular fluid by hydrogen potassium ATPase pump. Now, why it occurs? Because if the concentration, if the pH of the blood has been is becoming more and more acidic, so this H plus ion need to be excreted out, and the bicarbonate ion need to be reabsorbed into the proximal convoluted tubule to make a balance in the pH within the plasma, right? So this is the importance of having this particular pump. We will not talk about it. This is too high for you. Okay. Now reabsorption हमने अभी बात की थी, filtration of the bicarbonate ion. Normally whenever there is respiratory acidosis, for respiratory acidosis the renal compensation mechanism will occur. That means there is an increase in partial pressure of the carbon dioxide, increasing the rate of bicarbonate ion reabsorption and secretion of the H plus ion will be there. अब अगर respiratory alkalosis है, मतलब blood में alkalotic component है because of the defect in the respiratory system. So decrease in partial pressure of carbon dioxide, decreased rate of bicarbonate ion formation, तो reabsorption bicarbonate ion का कम होगा and secretion of H plus ion भी कम होगा. So that is how the renal system will compensate whether there is a respiratory alkalosis or there is a respiratory acidosis. Right? जब भी ये disorder होता है, we will talk about this in more detail in the last class where we talk about acid-base balance function. So this is the nutshell of the process of reabsorption of bicarbonate ion and secretion of H plus ion. The minimum urinary pH is around about 4.4. This is how actually it works. Many times the what we say, inorganic phosphate, hydrogen phosphate ions are also being secreted out as well. Okay. Now coming to something very interesting, water ka reabsorption at DCT and collecting tubules. There is a hormone which is termed as antidiuretic hormone. It is being synthesized, as I said, it is in the magnocellular neuron of the hypothalamus. Then from there it will be, this is where it actually gets synthesized, and then from there it will go to the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland. It remains stored there, and whenever the aldosterone is being secreted out by the change in the osmolarity, which is being identified here by the osmoreceptors in the hypothalamus, whenever there is a change in the osmolarity, say for example the osmolarity is increasing, then what is there? We need to prevent excess water excretion by the nephrons. So we need more and more water reabsorption. So that is what one of the very important things. So osmoreceptors are present in the hypothalamus. Whenever these get stimulated, they will act on the supraoptic nucleus of the hypothalamus, secreting the ADH. Even it will also cause the contraction of the pituitary to secrete out the ADH, or vasopressin भी इसका दूसरा नाम है. So what will happen because of ADH, the urine, there is more and more reabsorption of the water, and urine will be more concentrated. The amount or the volume of the urine will decrease and it will be more and more concentrated. Diluted nahi hoga. Now, before I talk about how this ADH works at DCT, let me talk about one of the very important channel, which is termed as, which is basically termed as a channel for reabsorption of water. Aquaporins. मैंने इसकी बात PCT में भी की थी. Now, aquaporins are nothing. They are water channels, specifically required for reabsorption of water. It is basically a transmembrane type of a protein, 6 membranes spinning in the cell membrane. They actually have been identified 13 different types. The scientist who actually discovered was Dr. Peter Agri. Now, there are different types of aquaporins. Main we will not be talking of everyone, something which is important for our understanding. Aquaporin 1 हमने पहले भी बात की थी, ये PCT में होता है and it will cause reabsorption of water. Very few are also present in descending limb of loop of Henle. तो वहां से भी reabsorption of water होता है. Descending limb, okay. Now, aquaporin 2, it is present in the end part of the DCT as well as the collecting tubule. Again, required for water reabsorption. Aquaporin 5 lacrimal gland में होता है. Aquaporin 9 जो है वो liver, spleen, lung, leukocytes में present होते हैं. Okay, so we'll not talk about all because that is not very important for you at present. But main thing what you should keep in mind that there are many different types of the aquaporin. One is present in the PCT and the descending limb of loop of Henle. 2 is present at the end of DCT and collecting tubules. 5, 9 याद रखना हो तो अच्छी बात है, not necessary. अब ये ADH aquaporin पे कैसे एक्ट करता है? जब भी ADH secrete होता है, someone is asking the question, carbonic and अच्छा, you have answered that question. Okay. Now, whenever the ADH is getting secreted, it will act on a receptor which is present in the cell of the end part of the DCT and the initial part of the collecting duct. That is termed as V2 receptor. यहाँ पर ये act करेगा, okay? And it will have a stimulate an enzyme which is termed as cyclic AMP or cyclase. AMP cyclase जिसको हम बोलते हैं. So it will convert ATP into cyclic AMP. So cyclic AMP is acting as a secondary messenger here. ठीक है? First messenger कौन सा है? ADP. Now this cyclic AMP will stimulate the activity of protein kinase A, as well as it will act on the nucleus to have genetic transcription of aquaporin 2 formation. तो ज्यादा से ज्यादा aquaporin 2 channels जो है वो synthesize हो जाए. दूसरा, protein kinase A क्या करता है? वेसिकल, इस सेल में जो वेसिकल्स हैं उनमें aquaporin 2 चैनल जो है ऑलरेडी स्टोर्ड है. So what it will do, it will motivate it or it will pump it to move towards the surface, towards the apical surface of the epithelial cell of the collecting duct. And once it is being inserted here, it will open up, causing more and more reabsorption of the water. अगर ADH सिक्रीट नहीं होता है, V2 रिसेप्टर स्टिमुलेट नहीं होता है, साइक्लिक AMP नहीं बनेगा, तो ये एक्वापोरिन रिसेप्टर्स यहाँ सरफेस पर नहीं आते. दे रिमेन ऑन द सरफेस फॉर अ लिमिटेड टाइम एंड दे हैव टू बी रिप्लेनिश्ड. ओके, ये नहीं कि परमानेंट वहां पर वो प्रेजेंट होते हैं. जैसे अभी तक हमने जो रिसेप्टर्स की बात की वो मोस्टली काफी हद तक वहां पर परमानेंटली बैठे होते हैं, सिर्फ ये है कि उनका रिप्लेसमेंट होता रहता है. ओके, बट हियर द रिप्लेसमेंट इज कंट्रोल्ड, इट इज कंट्रोल्ड बाय अ हार्मोन. ये परमानेंट वापस रिप्लेनिश होकर वापस खुद ही नहीं आता है जब तक ADH सिक्रीट उसको नहीं करेगा. सो व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, what is basically happening, the ADH is binding to its V2 receptor, which is stimulating a G protein, which is adenylate cyclase, causing the adenylate cyclase activity to increase, converting ATP to cyclic AMP. This cyclic AMP will have two functions, which acts as a secondary messenger having two functions, increases the protein kinase activity, which will push the vesicle having aquaporin 2 towards the apical surface of the membrane. Second, it will stimulate the nucleus to synthesize more and more genetic, what we say, the proteins which are required for the synthesis of the aquaporin 2. So synthesis of aquaporin 2 receptors will be increased, right? So these are the two major functions. अगर ADH low है blood में, तो क्या होगा? ADH लो ही है तो रिसेप्टर के साथ वो बाइंड नहीं करेगा, वेसिकल्स जो है वो सरफेस की तरफ नहीं आएंगे, और जो पुराने वाले वो तो ऑलरेडी हट चुके हैं, तो वाटर का रीअब्सॉर्प्शन नहीं होगा. अगर ADH का लेवल हाई है, सो द V2 रिसेप्टर विल बी स्टिमुलेटेड एंड इट विल कॉज बाय टू मैकेनिज्म व्हिच आई जस्ट शोड यू, इट विल कॉज द रीअब्सॉर्प्शन ऑफ मोर एंड मोर वाटर वाया aquaporin 2. This is again the same mechanism. Okay. फीडबैक कंट्रोल, अभी कैसे कंट्रोल करता है ये ADH अपने ही सिक्रीशन को. अगर ब्लड में ऑस्मोलैरिटी, एक्स्ट्रा सेल्यूलर ऑस्मोलैरिटी जो है वो बढ़ गई, तो क्या होगा? हाइपोथैलेमस में जो ऑस्मो रिसेप्टर्स है वो स्टिमुलेट हो जाएंगे. They will act on the posterior pituitary to secrete out vasopressin. This vasopressin will act on the tubular, that is the end part of the DCT and the initial part of the collecting duct, to it will bind to its receptor, V2 receptor, start having cyclic AMP, which is a secondary messenger, cause two mechanisms. Firstly, it will stimulate the protein kinase A, so that more and more vesicles containing this aquaporin 2 inside it will go toward the apex surface. Second, it will stimulate the nucleus to have more and more aquaporin 2 channels to be, or receptors to be synthesized. So it will cause reabsorption of more and more water. अब ज्यादा रीअब्जॉर्प्शन होगा तो क्या होगा? एक्सक्रीशन वाटर का कम होगा, राइट? और ऑस्मोलैरिटी जो प्लाज्मा की जो या ब्लड की जो ऑस्मोलैरिटी है वो डिक्रीज हो जाएगी, क्योंकि ब्लड जो है डाइल्यूट हो जाएगा. सो व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन? इट विल, द ऑस्मोरिसेप्टर स्टिमुलेशन विल स्टॉप एंड दिस ADH synthesis also will be stopped. So this is how actually there is a feedback control mechanism of the extracellular osmolarity with that of the secretion of the ADH. तो फीडबैक कंट्रोल मैकेनिज्म हम इसको बोलते हैं. यहां तक सही है क्या? Before I move to the applied aspect, because now majority of the things are applied. यहां तक समझ आया? Is there any question which you would like to ask me for ADH? अभी तक आपको ये मालूम था कि ADH aquaporin को स्टिमुलेट करता है, मगर अभी आज आपने सीखा कि वो स्टिमुलेट करता है, मगर कैसे करता है? व्हाट इज द बेसिक मैकेनिज्म? वो डायरेक्टली नहीं स्टिमुलेट करता है. इट विल डू इट बाय जनरेटिंग अ सेकेंडरी मैसेंजर. इवन एल्डोस्टेरोन सोडियम का रीअब्जॉर्प्शन कैसे करता है, दैट आल्सो वी हैव एक्सप्लेन्ड. इज दैट क्लियर? डू यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चन? If you don't ask me question, I will not be able to understand what you have understood and what you have not understood. So please ask questions, clarify your doubts. कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है? हाँ या ना तो लिखो भाई. No question. Okay. So let's talk about applied aspect. Not bit, we'll talk quite a lot about the applied aspect. Although this part I will be explained as having diabetes insipidus, specifically when there is the defect is in the neuron, in the nephron, in the kidney nephron. That means there is a characterized decreased expression of aquaporin 2. तो aquaporin 2 का सिंथेसिस में डिफेक्ट है या उनके वेसिकल को ट्रांसपोर्ट करने में डिफेक्ट है. डिफेक्ट कहीं पर भी हो सकता है, बट इट इज डिफेक्ट इज बिकॉज ऑफ द neuronal at the nephron part of the kidney tubules. So at that time also it will affect. Second, जब chronic heart failure है, there is an increased expression of the aquaporin 2. Again, this will affect the functional activity of the aquaporins as a whole. Now let's talk about the abnormalities. Okay, let's talk in depth. जो अभी हमने बोला diabetes insipidus का, थोड़ा हम इसको और expand करके समझते हैं. Now diabetes insipidus is basically a disorder because of the deficiency of ADH. Okay. Now deficiency of ADH दो तरीके से हो सकता है. या तो ADH का सिंथेसिस कम हो रहा है या ADH के रिसेप्टर में डिफेक्ट. तो या तो न्यूरोजेनिक है या नेफ्रोजेनिक है. ठीक है. व्हाट इट विल डू, अगर ADH की डिफिशियंसी है या रिसेप्टर की डिफिशियंसी है तो क्या होगा, ADH एक्ट नहीं करेगा. ADH एक्ट नहीं करेगा तो वाटर का रीअब्जॉर्प्शन नहीं होगा, तो वाटर ज्यादा से ज्यादा एक्सक्रीट आउट होगा. So the patient will be having polyuria. तो उनका per day urine output 20 to 25 लीटर तक जा सकता है, which is very high. Ideally कितना होता है? What is the ideal urine output? What is ideal urine output? 1.5 लीटर per day. पूरा complete लिखना चाहिए. Osmodiuresis होता है diuresis because of the difference in the osmolarity. दोनों साइड ट्यूब्यूलर ऑस्मोलैरिटी और इंटरस्टिशियल ऑस्मोलैरिटी में जब डिफरेंस होता है, उस कारण से जब यूरिन आउटपुट ज्यादा हो जाता है, दैट इज ऑस्मोडायूरेसिस. ओके, विल टॉक अबाउट इट. ओके, 1.5 पर यहाँ पर पॉलीयूरिया हो रहा है 20 to 25 लीटर्स पर डे. तो और उसके अलावा क्या होता है, अंदर डिफिशियंसी हो जाती है पानी की, तो इंक्रीज्ड अपटेक की कंटिन्यूअस रिक्वायरमेंट होती है. So as we said that diabetes insipidus, it is of two types. It can be central because of defect at the neuronal level, at the level of the secretion of the ADH, synthesis of the ADH, कहीं पर भी हो सकता है. Okay, and second because of the defect at the nephron, kidney nephron. Okay, the most common cause of defect at the nephron is the drug lithium. अगर लिथियम की टॉक्सिसिटी होती है तो सबसे पहले वो नेफ्रॉन के ADH रिसेप्टर की फंक्शनिंग को डिरेंज कर देता है. इवन इट कैन बी बिकॉज ऑफ द जेनेटिक म्यूटेशन ऑफ द aquaporin 2 दैट कैन लीड टू डिफेक्टिव रीनल ADH रिसेप्टर. सही है, मगर जो aquaporin बन रहा है वो सही नहीं बन रहा है या उसमें वो डिस्टॉर्टेड है, तो वो अपना फंक्शन नहीं कर पा रहा. So that is nephrogenic type of diabetes insipidus. So what all will happen? अगर सेंट्रल डायबिटीज है तो ADH का सीरम में, ब्लड में ADH का लेवल डिक्रीज होगा. उस कारण से क्या होता है, द सीरम ऑस्मोलैरिटी फॉर द कैल्शियम इज गोइंग टू इंक्रीज. क्यों इंक्रीज होगी? बिकॉज ऑफ एक्सक्रीशन ऑफ ह्यूज अमाउंट ऑफ द वाटर इज देयर. सो यूरिन विल बी हाइपोऑस्मोलर एंड यूरिन फ्लो रेट विल बी हाई. ओके, द क्लियरेंस फॉर वाटर विल बी पॉजिटिव. अगर नेफ्रोजेनिक डायबिटीज इंसिपिडस है तो क्या है, ADH हाई होगा, क्योंकि प्रॉब्लम जो है वो बेसिकली सेंट्रल नहीं है, वो नेफ्रॉन पर है, रिसेप्टर एंड पर. तो इस कारण से सीरम जो है वो ADH लेवल हाई होगा. इन केसेस में सीरम ऑस्मोलैरिटी फॉर सोडियम अगेन इट विल बी हाई बिकॉज एक्सक्रीशन ऑफ टू मच ऑफ वाटर इज देयर. यूरिन क्या होगा, अगेन हाइपोऑस्मोलर, यूरिन फ्लो हाई होगा एंड the free water clearance that will be positive. अगर किसी पेशेंट को सिंड्रोम ऑफ अगेन सिंड्रोम, तो इनमें ADH का सिक्रीशन बहुत हाई होता है. ओके, बहुत हाई सिक्रीशन, बहुत ज्यादा सिक्रीट आउट होता है. तो उससे क्या है, सीरम ADH काफी हाई हो जाएगा. उस कारण से ऑस्मोलैरिटी ऑफ सोडियम जो सीरम में है वो डिक्रीज हो जाएगी। क्यों? बिकॉज रीएब्जॉर्प्शन ऑफ टू मच ऑफ वाटर हो रहा है और यूरिन क्या होगा? हाइपर ऑस्मोलर। वाई हाइपर ऑस्मोलर? क्योंकि बहुत सारा जो सोडियम है वो रीअब्सॉर्ब नहीं हो रहा है। यूरिन फ्लो क्या हो जाएगा? डिक्रीज हो जाएगा एंड क्लियरेंस और फ्री वाटर क्लियरेंस कितना हो जाएगा? वो नेगेटिव हो जाएगा। सो दैट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन व्हेन देयर इज एन एक्सेस ऑफ ADH secretion and when there is a right. This is just a summary for nephropathy. Now, if there is a tumor where there is renin secretion, अगर cells which secrete out renin उसमें कोई डिफेक्ट है, ट्यूमर डिफेक्ट है या कार्सिनोमैटस डिफेक्ट है, तो वो क्या करेगा? रेनिन सिक्रीशन ज्यादा करेगा। रेनिन सिक्रीशन ज्यादा करने से एंजियोटेंसिन 2 भी ज्यादा होगा और एल्डोस्टेरोन भी ज्यादा होगा। सो व्हाट विल हैपन? वो जो काम करते फ्रॉम DCT एंड कलेक्टिंग ट्यूब्यूल, एक्सक्रीशन में भी स्टडी नॉट नीदर टू हाई नीदर टू लो। पोटेशियम का सिक्रीशन ज्यादा होगा इनिशियली, बट बाद में वो एक्सक्रीशन के लेवल के बराबर रह जाएगा। सो प्लाज्मा पोटेशियम विल बी लो, ब्लड प्रेशर विल बी हाई, इन स्पाइट ऑफ दैट द एल्डोस्टेरोन इज हाई। तो ये तीन चीजें इस पर इफेक्ट करती थी। इफ देयर इज समथिंग लाइक दिस, द फर्स्ट थिंग दैट शुड कम टू योर माइंड दैट देयर इज समथिंग हैपनिंग एट द renin level. Now there is another disorder which is termed as Liddle's syndrome. Activation of amiloride sensitive sodium channel. मैंने आपको amiloride sensitive channel की बात की थी, which is nothing but it is a channel which will cause the reabsorption of the sodium. याद है आपको? ENaC, that channel. And what exactly the treatment can be there? It can be, अगर एक्सेस एक्टिविटी है तो हमें अमिलोराइड देना चाहिए ताकि ज्यादा उसकी फंक्शनिंग एक्टिविटी जो है वो डिक्रीज हो जाए। अनदर very important is decreased activity of 1 sodium 1 potassium 2 chloride co-transporter, specifically in the thick limb of loop of Henle, which is termed as a Barter's syndrome. अब इसमें अगर डिफेक्ट हो जाएगा तो क्या हो जाएगा? सोडियम का रीअब्सॉर्प्शन नहीं होगा ज्यादा, पोटेशियम का रीअब्सॉर्प्शन नहीं होगा, क्लोराइड का रीअब्सॉर्प्शन नहीं होगा, तो इट विल बी एक्सक्रीटेड आउट फ्रॉम द यूरिन। तो ट्रीटमेंट में क्या है? सोडियम ज्यादा दे दो, सोडियम क्लोराइड ज्यादा मतलब सॉल्ट थोड़ा ज्यादा दे दो, पोटेशियम का इंटेक कर दो, एस्पिरिन दे दो which actually acts as a prostaglandin effect on the functioning of this particular receptor. One more defect what we see in the distal convoluted tubule, it is termed as Gledman syndrome. अभी Gledman syndrome basically क्या है? Where there is decreased sodium chloride reabsorption. आपको मैंने बताया था कि DCT में other than having 1 sodium 1 potassium and 2 chloride co-transporter, उसके अलावा sodium chloride symporter भी present है, and that is causing the reabsorption of sodium along with the reabsorption of the chloride. अगर इसमें so what will happen again? Decreased sodium reabsorption, decreased chloride reabsorption, वो यूरिन में ज्यादा आएगा। तो ट्रीटमेंट क्या है? सॉल्ट थोड़ा ज्यादा लें, पोटेशियम का इंटेक लें, इवन मैग्नीशियम का सप्लीमेंट लें, because magnesium is acting as a co-transporter at many of the reactions where the synthesis of those channels work out. So that is Gledman's disease. This is just a general overview. So let's talk in general. हमें general बात कि GFR glomerular filtration rate 125 ml per minute होता है और वो आइसोटोनिक होता है प्लाज्मा से। जब ये फ्लूइड PCT में आता है, वाटर, सोडियम, पोटेशियम, ग्लूकोज, अमाइनो एसिड, क्लोराइड, बाइकार्बोनेट, यूरिया, ये सब रीएब्सॉर्ब होता है। हाइड्रोजन आयन सिक्रीट भी हो सकता है डिपेंडिंग, क्रिएटिनिन वेरिएबल है, यूरिया वेरिएबल है। तो बाय द टाइम ये फ्लूइड जो है यहाँ तक पहुंचता है तो ऑस्मोलैरिटी क्या होती है? आइसोऑस्मोटिक 300 मिलिऑस्मोल। व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन? यहाँ तो थोड़ा वाटर रीअब्सॉर्ब हुआ, मगर यहाँ पर बिल्कुल भी वाटर का रीअब्सॉर्प्शन नहीं, केवल सल्यूट रीअब्सॉर्ब होना। तो बाय द टाइम व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन? the osmolarity is going to drop down. यहाँ fluid ज्यादा होगा, water ज्यादा होगा compared to the solute, so it will drop down to 100 to 120 milliosmoles per liter. Reaching to the DCT, यहाँ पर again hypotonic ही रहता है, but it is a bit lesser compared to that of the loop of Henle, around 200 million. More and more water gets reabsorbed by mainly by the function of the ADH, and what is going to happen? It is going to be the tubular fluid coming out of the collecting duct is normally hypertonic. तो रीअब्जॉर्प्शन जब वाटर का ज्यादा हो जाएगा तो क्या होगा, अंदर यूरिन जो है वो कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड हो जाएगा. कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड का मतलब टोनिसिटी जो है उसकी हाई हो जाएगी. सो इट विल कम आउट टू बी 1200 milliosmoles per liter. Please do keep in mind counter current mechanism. I'm not going to explain कि ये कैसे हुआ, ये हम already tubular function में explain कर चुके. Fine. Now, is there any question coming up to your mind?